Check 1 2 1 2. Here we go. You are now listening to the greatest, Taharkabey. This is Moorish World TV. Oh, you say you want the truth? Well, I'm gonna give you the truth. I'm gonna give you the truth today. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Islam, welcome to another edition of Moorish World TV. I'm your host, Brother Taharkabey, and I am here with the esteemed attorney, Brother Malik Zulu Shabazz. Welcome to Moorish World TV, brother. Why don't you introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Hey, how you doing? Dear sisters and brothers, my name is Malik Zulu Shabazz. I am the president of Black Lawyers for Justice. I'm the chairman emeritus, the former chairman of the New Black Panther Party. And I'm an author of the upcoming book of Khalid Muhammad. And I'm happy to be here on Moorish World TV. If it's not offensive to anybody, I would like to add that, like my teacher, I'm a Moor too. I know some of y'all gonna say I'm not a Moor, but I'm gonna check in before you try to put me out. So here we are.
Indeed. So, Brother Malik, can you give us a brief background about yourself and your experience and what you would describe as, I'm pretty sure, as the Black struggle, if you will? Can you give us a little bit of background? What led you into the struggle? How did you enter in? You know, what house did you come in? Hebrew, Moor, Nation Islam? Can you give us a little background about yourself?
Sure. That is an excellent question. A brief summary, some of it's contained in the book of Khalid. My grandfather joined the Nation of Islam in 1955. I attended some of the Nation of Islam meetings before the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1975 when I was real young. The nation fell. My grandfather fell. I went to Howard University and I got there in 1984. And by 1986, I had reunited with my grandfather. The Nation of Islam had started to come back. While I was at Howard University, before I got with the Nation of Islam, I was really waking up at Howard University. They have professors there in the political science department. I'm a political science major. So you got professors there from Egypt, Africa. They're reading, all the materials were either The Origin of African Civilization by Sheikh Anta Diop. There's How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. There's Pan-African thought. There's socialist thought. There's Black nationalist thought. And so Howard University really was the mecca of Black education at that time. And I was woken up to Malcolm X and Malcolm X Speaks, and I really got my Black on at Howard. In the middle of going to Howard, the nation got going back strong, and my grandfather was with the nation. And so therefore, he plugged me into the teachings. And after constantly being like drilled with the videos of Louis Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad, I brought Louis Farrakhan to Howard University in 1988, late. And then I brought Khalid Muhammad in 1989. And then I became an advocate for the Nation of Islam, basically. I formed a group called Unity Nation, and we supported Khalid Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan and other black scholars, but mainly the nation. And I started training. I met Khalid Muhammad in '89. I followed him, and I started getting stronger and stronger with him. And the strongest point that I came with Khalid Muhammad was when he faced his attack at King College. When he got real big and he was suspended by the United States House and the United States Senate, I was already a key organizer with it. He fell on some hard times with the Nation of Islam. And so therefore I had to help take over his security operations in early '94. And I had to basically be in charge of Muhammad's security and his organizing, and much of his great events that you see, I was behind it. And I was trained, taught, soldiered with, lawyered for, and just with Khalid Muhammad for 13 straight years. In the middle of that, I graduated law school, went to Howard, got in big trouble with law school, supporting Khalid Muhammad, graduated, formed Black Lawyers for Justice, fought on the legal end and the political end. Khalid Muhammad dies, new Black Panther Party chairman, then for another 13 years. I done been out here for some time, another 13 years. I done organized the Millions More movement with Louis Farrakhan. I done organized for reparations. I done been attacked by the ADL and the FBI and been to jail. I did the whole Black Panther thing. I still do it. I'm with them. Then 2013, I put a period to that, and I do full-time Black Lawyers for Justice now, and I'm still a lawyer and an organizer. That's my career in summary. It's a lot more to it, but I'm committed to my people, and I'm trying to use the legal or the organizing or the business end, you know, whatever it is to get my people free. But right now in this police crisis, I'm mainly doing law. And I'm wrapped up the Khalid Muhammad book. So for all of you scientists, it's going to be quite a reading for you. So I'm doing a lot, but I'm trying to stay focused.
Indeed. Were you ever a registered, official registered member of the Nation of Islam?
You know, my Nation of Islam experience goes as far as this. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay,
I'm sorry. I said the connection was unstable. I never formally registered and wrote my letter for the Nation of Islam. Mm-hmm. I attended many of the FOI sessions and was FOI with Khalid Muhammad prior to signing any letters. I was just with Mosque 27 at the times I visited home with my suit and bow tie with Muhammad, you know. And no, not formally registered. I'll be honest, I tried to register with the Nation of Islam, but at the time that I tried to register with the Nation of Islam, they were not so friendly towards student activists. So it was so much, it was not really a setup for the student activists. And so I supported the Nation of Islam and was basically free to just organize as a student activist. I found that to be less of a hassle, to be honest.
Indeed, indeed.
Straight
So your experience with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who is a personal hero of mine. I don't know if you check out my lives, but I use the passion that I have because I was inspired by Dr. Khalid Muhammad, because he used to speak from the diaphragm, from the passion for the love of his people. Your experience with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, were you able to gauge with him of how serious of a threat that they considered him? Did he understand how serious of a threat he was?
At key points in time, certainly he realized it. Number one, his seriousness and dedication to the struggle is profound. It's in every way. I mean, when Khalid Muhammad wakes up, I mean, he's revolutionary we're all revolutionary all day, but I mean, he takes this thing to an extra level. I mean, Khalid Muhammad, if he's FOI, he's impeccably dressed down to the Elijah Muhammad tee at all times. There's no such thing as going to the store in no jeans and a t-shirt for Khalid Muhammad. I mean, everything is about if he meets somebody, what kind of image is he going to portray, and is he going to be able to recruit or influence that person or otherwise advance the movement? So to him, his clothing is a part of the struggle. The way he's getting his head together and getting meticulous is a part of the struggle. If it's the car, the vehicle, if we about to hop in the Rolls Royce, it's not that we just out flossing. He sees the Rolls Royce as a revolutionary recruiting vehicle. And so, I mean, even if we just happen to be talking to some sisters or something, there's something revolutionary about it. Everything is always conscious and revolutionary. And that's what I loved about him. He's serious as hell, but yet he's like cool to kick it with, you know? I've never seen nothing like it. He's the authentic truth. Like when you're with him, you're like, no, he is the truth. And like this guy is a bona fide man from God, and he's no faking. Anytime you go through a certain set of circumstances with a man and he don't change, wherever he's at, he's hit. He's not hitting. He's not over here with one message or he's over here. I mean, he's hitting. He built my confidence over that time where, I mean, I seriously, man, have the highest of respect for him, man. As close up as I've been through him. And you know how when you get close with people, I just can tell you that guy is the real deal. He's serious, and yet he's a lot of fun. He's compassionate. He cares about you. He's sensitive. He, you know, buy me beautiful gifts for passing the bar and stuff like that. I mean, he's really a God and man. That guy's a black God, man. Straight up, he's a black God. Straight up, I ain't Snow White, man. My mentor was a black God, and I miss him great.
In your experience, again, with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, I know because you have the book coming up, and so that's why I want to inquire about some of your experiences with about Dr. Khalid Muhammad. In your experience with him, how did he feel about his separation from the Nation of Islam from your vantage point?
Agonized him greatly. We can only calculate how great it antagonized him. Khalid Muhammad never wanted to leave the Nation of Islam. I mean, we celebrate him as the Black Power General and as the new Black Panther Party chairman, but history will record that the position that made him most comfortable, brought him the most peace, and where he desired to be was with the Nation of Islam and Minister Louis Farrakhan. Khalid Muhammad's story is a story of a man with ideological and theological convictions that at a certain point in time clash with his duty to be 100% obedient with his leader. And he had to face pretty much a moral test of whether he was going to follow his ideological convictions or would he follow the instructions and the dictates and the path of his leader and how his leader was handling him. So it's a tale of ideology. It's a tale of theology. It's a tale of the Nation of Islam trying to achieve certain goals and objectives. It's a case of, in this period in time, the Nation of Islam becoming more conservative in its doctrine. I'm talking about 1993 in specific, more conservative in its doctrine and its teaching. Khalid Muhammad being a radical, Khalid Muhammad got caught in the middle. Khalid Muhammad got suspended. Khalid Muhammad tried to work it out. I mean, it's quite a tale. You know, Louis Farrakhan gets bigger. He gets bigger up to the 1 million man march. I call it going up towards the center. He grows further in popularity, further in following, further in influence. His ideology moves from the left to the center, a more conservative ideology in comparison to the previous ideology that Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad were teaching. Khalid Muhammad is a natural-born militant, so he becomes ostracized from the Nation of Islam. He's basically fundamentally ostracized from the Nation of Islam. It causes him a great degree of agony or heartache. And some say even his ultimate heartache or passing had something to do with his never having recovered from the heartbreak of being basically ousted from the Nation of Islam or separating from his leader, teacher, and his guide, his hero, Louis Farrakhan.
So my intention was not to delve into that, but since we there, let me ask this. Have you ever heard the theory that Nation of Islam was, because you said I can ask you anything, but
sure,
this is just out on social media in the public, that the Nation of Islam went from the militants of what Farrakhan taught Dr. Khalid, and then the militant personality or persona kind of was you know, that was kind of shunned upon a little bit, and Dr. Khalid continued on to that. But in connection with that, there's also has been word that even the Nation of Islam went through a color change, as we had the dark olive, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and then everything went lighter. Have you ever heard that before?
Okay, I'll take the second part, then I'll come back to the first part. Of course, I've heard the allegation that the Nation of Islam favors light-skinned leadership. Now, it's not something that I specifically talked with Khalid Abdul Muhammad about, but the argument that has come to me says is that it favors light-skinned leadership, you know, lighter-skinned leadership, and that Khalid Muhammad was somehow persecuted because he was dark-skinned. I mean, it's interesting when you look at it. I guess you could say Louis Farrakhan is of lighter skin. His successor, probably the future leader of the Nation of Islam, Ishmael Muhammad, is very light. Malcolm X wasn't exactly blue-black. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, so forth. Farad Muhammad, we know he's light. So maybe it comes all the way back from Farad. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of tilted like that from Farad. You know, I would say that Khalid Muhammad's persecution was not more so for the blackness of his skin, but the blackness of his teaching. But the blackness of his teaching, coupled with the blackness of his skin and his militant look, made him all that much more as the man that was just given a hard time and was shunned. He was too black, too strong, mentally, educational-wise, and physical-wise. So I'm sure it didn't help. No, Khalid Muhammad being black and militant did not help him in the Nation of Islam. It goes like this, brother. I have a chapter in my book called Heir Apparent. It's 10,000 words, Heir Apparent. It describes that Khalid Muhammad in the year of 1992 up to the mid-93 rose to the peak of the Nation of Islam and rose to what they call the heir apparent to Louis Farrakhan. Nobody could come close to him. I mean, we used to call Louis Farrakhan at that time, the Christ, and I call Khalid Muhammad the baby Christ. I mean, he was masterful. That guy was masterful. So I said, this man is the true successor to Louis Farrakhan. This man is, in many instances, academically advanced the next level to Louis Farrakhan. You know, Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches a lot of Bible, teaches a lot of Quran, and he has a lot of common sense. He's one of our greatest teachers. But necessarily from the academic perspective of knowing facts of history and having an intricate knowledge of certain aspects of our struggle, that's Khalid Muhammad. He's kind of like the next level. As students, we saw him as the next level. He's not just religion. He's political. He's the next level. So I have a chapter called Heir Apparent, where I trace just how he was appointed the national assistant to Louis Farrakhan and how he basically swept past all of his peers in the Nation of Islam ministry. It's still today. There's no minister in the Nation of Islam other than Louis Farrakhan that even touched Khalid Muhammad. Yesterday and today, I'll stand on that all day.
Right.
There is not one minister in the Nation of Islam other than Minister Louis Farrakhan that today or any year in between or yesterday that can compare with the effectiveness and the brilliance of Khalid Muhammad. So he became very strong, okay? Now you must also understand this. I have his FBI files now. I have Khalid Muhammad's FBI files. So I know just how much the Nation of Islam is targeted by the FBI. I know just how much that they are trying to be in the Nation of Islam and make the Nation of Islam go the way they want it to go. Okay, so let me fast forward, because I didn't intend on talking about this either, but it might as well be here on Moorish World TV, right? Because I'm letting some of this out that I have not really spoken about. This thing is like, I go into it into detail. So after Heir Apparent, after Khalid Muhammad is defending the Nation of Islam on Malcolm X, and he's basically the man. He's like Malcolm, and Farrakhan is like Elijah, right? And they're rolling strong, and Black America's rolling strong. But here's something that happened in the meanwhile, right? The Nation of Islam also is effective inside of the Black community in cleaning up Black neighborhoods at this time, right? In 1988, they started the Dope Busters in Washington, D.C. They cleaning up Mayfair mansions in Kenilworth. The Dope Busters become famous, national famous and world famous for cleaning up projects in inner city communities. And that's a good thing, right? Because that's what we need, okay? Along the way, big opportunities come with cleaning up Mayfair mansions in Kenilworth, like big opportunities, which in my book I record causes a change in doctrine for the Nation of Islam. The doctrine for the Nation of Islam comes in May of 1993 with the speech May 2nd, 1993 at the National Press Club by Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled A Torchlight for America.
I remember the book. I had the book.
And the book was called A Torchlight for America. The speech came before the book, but this was a policy by Louis Farrakhan. It was a doctrine. I call it in my book, the Torchlight Doctrine, okay? And I must be honest, the Torchlight speech and the book is the dividing line between what Khalid Muhammad calls Old Testament Farrakhan and New Testament Farrakhan. But now I don't want to, and I just say that in terms of a historical period. So the Nation of Islam doing good in the Black community. They're doing good, and they start to get some millions of dollars in housing and urban development contracts for doing this good work. And it starts to even bode well for the Nation of Islam. For instance, even the mainstream Black critics who normally would be criticizing the Nation of Islam started to applaud them. And the nation was doing things in the Black community amongst the drugs and the dope dealers at the height of the drug war from 82 to 93. They were doing things out there that the police and others couldn't handle. You get to 93, so you start, so then that has an effect on Minister Farrakhan. The Dope Busters have a profound effect on his mentality on how he's going to approach the struggle. So here he comes out with, so he's constantly being attacked. He's called a racist, an anti-Semite. So he seeks, in his own words, according to my research search, to change his image, to get a fresh look. So he has what? He has a Torchlight for America speech. He has a Torchlight for America book. Caught some of us off because we know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches what the fall of America. So, you know, as young revolutionaries, when we got the book Torchlight for America, we was like, well, damn, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, Khalid Muhammad, he defended that, and we went through that. Same summer, Minister Farrakhan had a couple of violin concerts where he played Mendelssohn, and at a couple of violin concerts, including his birthday, and according to his own words, according to his words and my research. This is my chapter. It's another 10,000 word chapter called Has Farrakhan Changed Direction? It was unavoidable for me to address that chapter because that's the chapter that changes Khalid Muhammad's life. And this is the year 1993 that changes his life. The chapter is called Has Farrakhan Changed Direction? So Khalid goes from the heir apparent, the right-hand man, but then in 93, another right-hand man is the man running the Torchlight program. His name is Leonard Farrakhan. He's a businessman. He's a man that Khalid Muhammad doesn't like. He's a man who Khalid Muhammad calls, quote, a fat, funky motherfucker. I don't know if you know Leonard Farrakhan.
No, this is very new to me because I've been in this struggle for a long time.
I've never dropped this anywhere, but I might as if something tells me it's time. So Leonard Farrakhan is the big, heavy. He was his former son-in-law, married to the minister's daughter, but not anymore, but he's the chief of staff. He's overweight, and Khalid Muhammad despised him because he felt that he was a counter-revolutionary, that he may have been working for the enemy. and he definitely was a conservative. And as Khalid Muhammad said, quote, Leonard Farrakhan does not have a revolutionary bone in his body. He called Leonard Farrakhan a fat, funky motherfucker. Well, Leonard Farrakhan is the one behind this torchlight doctrine and trying to see, well, and he's also the head of a major security firm in Chicago that's winning more security money. So the move in '93, the Nation of Islam, is let's get out of the anti-Semitic thing. Let's get out of the race battles, the being portrayed anti-white, and let's fight the drug war. Let's be the anti-crime people. Let's tone all the rest of this down. Let's tone it down and conservatize it, and let's employ some people. Let's employ some brothers. And from the big man at the top, like Leonard and others, let's go into business and make some money. Therefore, this radical Khalid Muhammad is kind of like, he's becoming, with this white man is the devil and all of this talk is not, it's really fundamentally, I have to be honest, it's not good for business. And it's not good for Minister Farrakhan necessarily. I'm not saying that Farrakhan was in for the business. I would say that Leonard Farrakhan and the others may have been in it for business. And I can't say it's bad to try to give some men some jobs, but at what price? See, because Khalid Muhammad's going to pay a price for the Nation of Islam conservatizing his doctrine. He pays that price when? And I'm going to sum it up. In September of '93, there's a big meeting at the Congressional Black Caucus. The leader of the Congressional Black Caucus, Kwesi Mfume, is there with Ben Chavis, the head of the NAACP. They promised, this is the first time this has happened, Louis Farrakhan is there. They promised a quote, a sacred covenant with the Nation of Islam. They impressed with the Nation of Islam anti-crime work too. So they promised a sacred covenant with the Nation of Islam where they would work together. I was right at the meeting. I'm saying hooray too. 2 months later, Khalid Muhammad gives a speech at King College. The ADL takes a full page out in the New York Times. It's all over the media everywhere. Jesse Jackson, everyone is calling for now who? Farrakhan to denounce Khalid Muhammad. Because they're saying, look, Farrakhan, and Mfume too, the Congressional Black Caucus, and Mfume. They're saying, now, if you want to be, this is what they're saying. Louis Farrakhan, if you want to be accepted into the quote unquote mainstream, if you want to do business with Congress, if you want to fight crime as part of the war on drugs, you're going to have to you're going to have to lose this anti-white, racism, anti-Semitism, and you're going to definitely have to lose suspending this Khalid Muhammad. Now this Khalid Muhammad, so all the pressure came now to get rid of Khalid Muhammad. And then they're saying, I'm not saying Farrakhan is saying this, but the Congressional Black Caucus and everybody's saying, if you want to be with us and do business with us, this man has to be sacrificed. Okay, and the Nation of Islam, and so they say, well, Khalid Muhammad is suspended because he used bad language or he cussed out the white man. And that is what was stated. But the record really shows that that was just a pretext. That was a pretext. We got him on the technicality, but really the deal was to get Khalid Muhammad and the militancy and the hard anti-whites and the call for violence. That was old news for the nation coming into 1994, and Khalid Muhammad was busted behind it. And eventually he was shot behind it. See, that's just a lot to it. He was busted behind it. The bust had, I'm gonna finish here, the bust had no effect. So then I spent another 18,000 words talking about the exaltation of Khalid. Because even though he was suspended, he's all on the news, he's everywhere we went, it's standing room only. We on national TV, on C-SPAN. He's got a voice, he's got influence, even though he's suspended by Louis Farrakhan, everybody's with him. He's showing what? Poise and character, and he's handling things. I'm like, damn. You know, he's the man, right? But in May, late May, James X. Best, the Seattle supposed ex-minister for the Nation of Islam, says, enough of this Khalid Muhammad. He's going to shoot a bullet in the leg. He's going to go kill Khalid Muhammad. So we talk about that and shot down like a dog. And there's other people that we're talking to and influencing James Best that will come out in the book. I won't get into it right now. So, man, there's some hell of a stuff, man. It's taken me a long time to write it, but I refuse to leave out relevant facts. But I swear there's a lot to be learned by this young man's story.
So whatever happened to Dr. Ben Chavis? That was a big story to have. I think he was a reverend and crossed over to the NOI, but it kind of faded away after a few years. I've been around since '90, so I've been aware, like in it since '90. So whatever happened to Dr. Ben Chavis?
According to my book, Khalid Muhammad, who was a very harsh critic of Ben Chavis, states, Khalid Muhammad states, not me, he states, quote, "The nigga Ben Chavis is not a Muslim at all. The nigga just wants some money." This is what Khalid Muhammad said, that the nigga is not a Muslim at all. The nigga just wants some money. That was exactly what he said. And Khalid Muhammad did not like Ben Chavis. Khalid Muhammad first and foremost felt that Ben Chavis was the personification of the ideological change in the Nation of Islam away from Black nationalism and towards civil rights. And that Chavis was the replacement for Khalid. That's how Khalid took it and viewed it and even personalized it. That Ben Chavis's rise and exaltation with Louis Farrakhan and Louis Farrakhan's venture with civil rights and into his Million Man March was that he actually was in and Khalid was out. And that hurt Khalid Muhammad. So Khalid Muhammad was on Ben Chavis's ass all the time. Matter of fact, in 1996, as I recount, it was almost a physical fight in the park in Washington, D.C. at I think it might have been Lafayette Park for the Jericho rally. I was with Khalid Muhammad. We were recruiting for the Million Youth March, and this is February '98. So I said, Doc, I say, there's Ben Chavis. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I said it. Here he goes barging right over there. Me, him, and a bunch of young people. And it's Ben Chavis and this Khadir Muhammad from Mosque Number 4, Nation of Islam. And he don't like Khalid Muhammad at all, and Khalid don't like him either. And it's Dr. Aleem Muhammad, and well, Aleem Muhammad was friends with James Best, and that's another on and off thing. So anyway, we go rolling right over there on them, and it was a showdown. Khalid Muhammad gave everybody the greetings. He gave Khadir the greetings, left cheek to right cheek. He gave Aleem a strong greeting, left cheek to right cheek. And then he looked Ben Chavis in the face and just looked at him like that. And so then Khadir said something about not giving him the greetings, and then they got into it, and Khadir said, well, flip you. And Khalid Muhammad said, well, flip you. And he said, you know I ain't impressed, and you know I ain't. And Khalid Muhammad stood him down, and we was basically on the verge of throwing on two sides. The Nation and they squad they had, and another squad we had, and it was basically like that. But then Khadir and Ben Chavis, they just pulled off. They peeled out, and it ended like that. But I mean, Khalid Muhammad was ready to throw with that, ready to throw. He was literally ready to fight Ben Chavis because he felt that Ben Chavis was the example that the nation was changing. And he said he would never make it as no minister of Mosque Number 7, which he didn't. He said that Ben Chavis was just chasing some pussy. That's what Khalid Muhammad said, just chasing some pussy. And well, he was fired from the NAACP for selling a sexual harassment lawsuit without telling the board. And that's why he was fired, because he spent like $250,000 without telling nobody. Whatever it was, I mean, he determined that Ben Chavis was a fraud. And I think when it comes to Islam, in terms of just being a Muslim minister, we know that that was pretty much accurate. In terms of civil rights and the Million Man March, I have to be fair and say that just on a basic organizing level, that he probably did a good job organizing in the Million Man March. even though the bad part about it is at the Million Man March that a certain militant or radical element was absolutely ostracized and sidelined. But it was still a brilliantly organized march. But history will record that Khalid Muhammad and a certain wing of the movement was silenced on the Day of Atonement.
So let me backpedal a little bit about your foundation. Do you subscribe to the ideology as taught in the Nation of Islam from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Because you know many people said there's a difference between what Elijah Muhammad taught and what Farrakhan teaches, which I'm not into that. I don't have a horse in the race, but do you subscribe to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
For the most part, I do, yeah. In general, I do. As taught to me and explained to me by Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I subscribe to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as expressed to me through Minister Louis Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad. But I would say at this point, primarily Khalid Muhammad. What Khalid Muhammad called Old Testament Farrakhan was pretty much square with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm kind of like some all the way Khalid Muhammad, Old Testament teaching Farrakhan. Though I love Louis Farrakhan just as a person, just in general, like right now, no matter what he do, he's like still like an icon to me, like a hero or a grandfather. Like I love for him no matter what he would teach or do, he still would be like, have personal feelings towards him. But if you want to ask me what teaching I follow and believe in, it's Khalid Muhammad's take on Elijah Muhammad's teaching. He probably gave the best take on it. Even Louis Farrakhan himself said there's nobody more profound in the teachings of Elijah Muhammad than Khalid Muhammad. So I tend to take Khalid Muhammad's interpretation of the teachings.
So
one second.
No problem. So Islam family, this is going to
All right.
good.
Sorry about that.
And so I can get me some more notes real quick.
Yeah.
And so what I was going to say is, let me grab a pen real quick. What I was going to ask is, one moment. I wanted to add, good, that pen works. So what I wanted to ask is, do you subscribe to the concept? You said I can ask you anything, and so nothing is in disrespect. And I'm just, so that people can know what you stand on and what
If I know Khalid Muhammad's teaching, I should be able to take any criticism of the Nation of Islam or its founders or whatever, and I should be able to respond effectively if I am his student.
Indeed, indeed. So do you subscribe to the ideal that Master Farad Muhammad is God in the person? And how would you articulate that in today's world?
How would I or Khalid Muhammad?
No, you.
How would me?
Do you subscribe to it first?
Do I subscribe to the term that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad?
That Master Farad Muhammad is Allah in the person, or Allah is in the person of Master Farad Muhammad? Something to that. However you choose to explain it.
I choose to represent and say that, and to bear witness that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, meaning that at that time that God visited us, he brought us a message, and he brought it through Farad, and he spread the message through Elijah, and that was God working, and I bear witness that God was working in his person at that time.
Right.
I am not of the belief that Allah is Master Farad Muhammad right now. That's just not my belief, you know. I mean,
Okay.
I just have to admit, you asking me that, no, because I'm instructed not to believe in mysteries. And so if God is not here, then he got to be a mystery. if he got to be here, right? If the Nation of Islam teach me that there is no mystery God, and so it'd be kind of hard to tell me that Fard is my God right now if Fard ain't here, because that would make him a mystery. But I'm still good. That's what
I'm smiling because brother, I am a thinker, and I think of things to challenge my Moorish counterparts, my brothers. And just to hear you say that, that takes a thinker to articulate, like, hold up, let me put two and two together. So
other than that,
I like that.
people, because when they start teaching and saying, well, you know, that Fard is out on that, it's just, it's too much speculation in it. Right now, I know that I'm here. I exist, and I know you exist. And so we know that the all in all, and we know that the God is here in you and is here in myself. And I have to be honest, Khalid Muhammad was a universal thinker in terms of his spirituality. Yes, he bear witness that Allah came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. He loved Fard, but he loved Fard because of his teaching. He loved Fard because of what he taught and what he set up. But he understood, but his understanding and his comprehension of God was I would say, broader. Khalid Muhammad taught us about God in the person of the black man and God in the person of the black woman. And he said that Fard was a sign of the God in us.
Right, got you.
You know, the 5%ers say that the black man is God. And so none of us are real experts. I mean, at least I'm not. I don't portray to be an expert on Allah or God. But I will say that I respect Farad Muhammad. I respect Master Farad Muhammad because of what he taught in his doctrine. That's the main reason why I'm into him. I ain't into no other reasons than that.
Indeed. I hope I'm getting all this. I'm checking my volumes right now, but I think I'm good. So with that being said, let me turn this down slow. So with that being said, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about the conservative versus let's talk about the fall of America versus the torchlight of America. Do you believe that Dr. Khalid Muhammad, from your experience with him, Dr. Khalid Muhammad was working towards the fall and the overthrow of American tyranny and governmental principles that have been used, against us as a group of people, or was what he was teaching was a precursor to work within the system, maybe at a later date?
No, I think Khalid Muhammad is a firm separatist, as he said. He's a black separatist. He's a revolutionary. He's a black nationalist. He's for the overthrow of the white man's world, and he's not for America. And he believes that America is divinely doomed to be destroyed and that it will not be given a second chance. Now, this is not to say that there's not some scriptural basis at that time for Minister Farrakhan's position. He touted himself as a modern day Jonah. And Jonah went to Nineveh to save Nineveh, and the king ended up putting on sackcloths and ashes. So Minister Farrakhan in his 1998 World's Day of Atonement speech or at other time has cast himself as a warner to America, and has repeatedly declared that if America could be saved, if they would accept his warning and his intervention. This brought about a specific clash of doctrine after the Million Youth March of 1998. Minister Farrakhan, as I record in my book, gave a speech at Howard University after the Million Youth March. It was a big fight with the police. Well, Minister Farrakhan, he criticized the Million Youth March in New York, and he specifically chastised me in the audience. I'm out somewhere in the audience, and he got to working on me, right? So he ended up saying that, you know, that if, I guess he was talking to Khalid Muhammad, but I was there as Khalid's rep. So he was saying in words, I have it documented, but if arrogance and arrogance and pride, and if your motives aren't right, and if your heart aren't right, then you won't be successful. And everybody was cheering, and I was right there getting cheered on, right? But Khalid Muhammad didn't appreciate that, right? So he went to the rostrum in New York 2 weeks later and gave that infamous speech you see online called No Holds Barred, where he responded to Minister Farrakhan's teaching. Minister Farrakhan at that same lecture was saying that he was a modern Jonah and that he was going to stop the storms from hitting America, that he was going to stop the storms for 90 days or so forth from hitting America, and that he was the one that could intervene to save America. And so Khalid Muhammad got pissed at what Farrakhan had said about the Million Youth March. So he challenged Farrakhan on his doctrine. He challenged him and said that the Nineveh doctrine was erroneous because 2 books later, after the king put on the sackcloths and ashes in Nineveh to Jonah, 2 books later in the book of Nahum, Nineveh tried to deceive God and was still wicked, and Nineveh was destroyed in the book of Nahum, which he pointed out in that No Holds Barred speech. So Khalid Muhammad never believed in the saving of America doctrine, the reform of the white race doctrine, the reform of the America doctrine. He wasn't for that. He wasn't like that, and he saw that too much. He saw that in terms of being like more so like Wallace Muhammad, or trying to work some kind of compromise out with the situation. And ultimately, these are the ideological things that the 2 strong men split over. That Khalid Muhammad could not reconcile these things. He could not teach these things, even though he wanted to be by Farrakhan. He wanted to be seen there. He wanted all the security. He wanted the gigs all around the country. He wanted the prestige instead of trying to wrestle with this new little untrained group of Panthers. I was rough on that man. He really wanted to be with the Nation of Islam, but I swear, as God is my witness, I couldn't take it back. He couldn't stomach the doctrine. Oh, hello?
My bad. I said, yeah. You said he could not stomach the doctrine.
The doctrine, and he couldn't stomach the doctrine. Some say he's hard-headed, some say he committed.
Wow, man. And that's shocking because, like I said, I've been around. Like I've been known. Me and a friend of mine. He's a Sunni Muslim now, my brother Malik. Shout out to brother Malik. His name Malik too. You know, he's Sunni brother now, but he was in a nation at the time. I've always been a Moorish American since I was 18, and man, we used to just sit back and just listen to Dr. Khalid tapes, and when he was talking about Nelson Mandela, Harriet Tubman, on and on and on. And what it reminds me of is that back in the day, and I never forget it, when Farrakhan was on the big stage running with Jesse Jackson, and he had told the people that if you touch Jesse, this, that, and the third would take place. Him and Jesse had some discord, but he said if you touch Jesse, this, that, and the third won't take place. Now that leads me to my next question. I remember that conversation about if you touch Jesse. I remember the conversation at the Million Man March, although at March I wasn't there, but I remember the conversation, and I wasn't there because I was in college at the time. You know what I mean? But with that being said, I remember that the last conversation was justice or else. With all of those combined, what from your position does all of that mean?
All right,
is there something on the other side of these statements? Just from your position. Now, I know we can't speak for the brother or the organization.
You mean you basically?
Because I know when Dr. Khalid.
What do you seem to say? Are you asking me, do we know where we're going? Are you asking me, what does it all mean?
Yeah, from your point of view. So when we look at Dr. Khalid Muhammad.
Let me answer your question. Let me come back here. Let's start with Jesse Jackson, okay?
Okay.
Because you touched on something that I elaborate on substantially in my book. It's a chapter called Busted, all right? And I outline here that when Khalid Muhammad was suspended and came under attack from the Jews, the Anti-Defamation League, and from conservative blacks, that he was in the exact same position that Louis Farrakhan was in 10 years earlier. Louis Farrakhan was a campaign surrogate. He was a campaigner in the campaign for Reverend Jackson. Reverend Jackson was accused of anti-Semitism. Louis Farrakhan interjected and spoke out loudly and vociferously against Israel and the Jews. Louis Farrakhan was accused by the Jesse Jackson campaign of being a loudmouth. He was accused by the Jesse Jackson campaign of messing things up. He was denounced by Jesse Jackson as making statements that are indefensible, indefensible and morally
irreprehensible.
Indefensible and morally reprehensible, and he was repudiated, right?
That's right. I remember like yesterday.
Look, but for us, our interpretation of it was all pro-Farrakhan. We love Farrakhan. He did nothing wrong. Jesse is compromising. This is God's sign that Farrakhan is the man. Even though he's being denounced and hated, Farrakhan is the man. That was our learning experience, right? We get to exact similar circumstances here now. Here's Khalid Muhammad. He's under attack by the same Jews, so-called Jews, under attack by the Anti-Defamation League. He, like Louis Farrakhan, is denounced by the United States Senate, but Khalid Muhammad is denounced by the United States Senate and the House of Representatives. He's in the same position. So my analysis in the book is, why doesn't Khalid Muhammad get the same support, reverence, and respect for being attacked and standing up as Louis Farrakhan did 10 years before? Why is it that when Khalid Muhammad comes under attack by the Congress and the Jews, he's considered the bad guy or the pariah, when 10 years earlier we celebrated Louis Farrakhan for being a hero, for being in the same position? To me, I couldn't reconcile that, and therefore I must point out the contradiction to it. See, I don't think that, and so Muhammad's time, just like Farrakhan knew that his divine time came, and it did. This was Muhammad's divine time, but yet Muhammad was demonized instead of lionized. Straight up, he was really actually by his own group, honestly, at that time, demonized instead of lionized, but there was political pressure. They was putting pressure on, and Farrakhan was trying to move towards the center. Khalid Muhammad's caught in the middle. There's even other points where you can see that Farrakhan maybe even feels kind of bad about it. He's talking to Barbara Walters. He says, well, I'm not trying to crush my brother. He's getting tired of people telling him to denounce Khalid Muhammad because why? It was newspapers saying that Farrakhan is becoming the new Jesse. And Farrakhan, we know him not to be in the repudiation business, right? We know him to be the repudiated one. We count on Farrakhan to defend anything black. A damn black mass murderer. Farrakhan was the standard. He don't denounce nothing. So once he denounced Khalid Muhammad, that brought Khalid Muhammad, that may have eased some things on his behalf, but it also brought questions on him. That even he knew that he couldn't go too far in that way. But ultimately still, Khalid Muhammad was like an albatross around his neck. It was like he's going somewhere big. And here's this militant, Khalid Muhammad's like a reminder of the past, you know what I mean? With this white man is the devil teaching. The Nation of Islam, I recorded in my book, in June 1993, they prohibited their members from teaching the white man is the devil. Do you know what an edict is? You know what a religious edict?
It's like an edict. Yeah, we call it an edict. Yeah.
In 1993, after that Torchlight for America speech, the official edict was the white man is not to be called the devil anymore. He is to be called either the slave master or the enemy, but he is not to be called the devil. And so Khalid Muhammad told me, he said he's not going by that. Khalid Muhammad said he's never going to go by that. So there were changes being made that Muhammad wouldn't go by. And that's not all of my story, but that's certainly a hell of a part of it.
Well, let me ask you.
Now, hold on. Let me say what I want to say. You say what it all means. What it means is this, brother. What it means is this. Because at some points, the Nation of Islam doctrine got conservative. Then at other times, it'll bend back. It'll be here. It'll be there. And I guess what you're asking to me directly is, can we take the Nation of Islam, as great as it is, as many members as it has, as great as it is, can we take it serious as a liberation force to fight for our people? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's basically what I'm getting to when we hear all of, and much honor to all the work that they have done. But, you know, this is an interview and I have to ask the real questions. What would appear to be rhetoric or, you know, knock the chip off my shoulder type thing, like the justice or else, or, you know, is there something, do you see something on the other side of that from your experience in the struggle?
I wish I could. I want to say I wish I could. I wish I could, because it's needed so bad. And I want to say that the Nation of Islam call for justice or else was not just a title, was beyond the slogan. And I wanted to be that hoping, but I haven't really seen solid evidence that it was just some things that they were having. I mean, to be honest, I think that they could be a very effective fighting force in the fight for justice. I don't think necessarily that the Nation of Islam is going to be necessarily protesting, but they do have protests. I mean, they do march. They have the Million Man March. They have the Million Family March, the Millions More Movement, Justice or Else. They have marches and they tell all Black people, look, come and attend our march, support Louis Farrakhan. Every year they say, we're having Savior's Day. Farrakhan is the leader of Black people, as they say, support Farrakhan. And what do? We support. Why is it that when Black people say, well, we having a march on police brutality, now we trying to fight for the issues that we was just heard about at some of your marches, why is it that you now telling us you can't march and you can't be with us? See, to me, that smacks of a double standard. That smacks of a double standard. You want me to support you, and I do support you, but you always got an excuse why you ain't gonna support me.
So that segues that down. Now listen, you didn't move too fast.
Objection to stuff like that.
So you didn't move too fast, because that's where I was about to segue into the conversation of you made a statement online, which made me to pick up the phone and give you a call, because your sentiments is kind of the same one that I have with the paradigm called the Moorish Science Temple of America. You made a statement a few days before the statement I'm about to mention, was that some brother had made a comment, a Moorish brother made a comment on your post, and you said, well, the Moors have not been in any struggle for the liberation of our people, not in the 60s, and, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but you addressed almost every era. But I even think you said something about every era. And so the brother went along and he posted some pictures with a few brothers of the Black Panther Party and whatever the case may be. And so I chimed in and I say, well, you know, brother, that's not going to do it. No, Moorish Americans have not been in the struggle. We don't see affairs with Martin Luther King. We don't see affairs, this, that, and the third. So on the flip side of that, 2 days later or 3 days later, you come back and say something similar to what you just said about the Nation of Islam have not been on the forefront as it relates to the police brutality issues and coming out in the streets. And as you said that, and I thought about it, I had to reflect back because I've been in this for a while. I've been in the background in the temple type thing, but I've always been socially aware and conscious. And I said, you know what? Thinking about it, not only haven't I seen the Moorish Science Temple of America, or phases, if you will, in these struggles, from the Rodney King beating, I don't see no Moors. Then I said, hold up, I don't see no bow ties. I didn't see bow ties. I said, hold up, wait a minute. And then I look at, from the Rodney King, everything in between to the Floyd. And I'm saying, I don't see the fez or the bow tie. What do you have to say about that, brother? Why is it that, now I can speak for the Moorish Science Temple of America, but I can't speak for the NOI, neither can you per se, but you have experience with a great iconic figure who was among the NOI. So you got firsthand experience to give you a better position to elaborate why we do not see the NOI at the forefront of these sort of public display of disapproval of treatment of our people.
All right. I would even clarify further and say at this point, we don't see them at all. Not that we see them at the forefront. When major struggles such as the George Floyd and this struggle against police brutality, or Ferguson, Missouri, or Rodney King, most of the time we don't see them at all with the people. Unfortunately, I can explain why. I'm just saying it's just a fact that they haven't been seen. At other times, the times they have been seen, from my personal experience of organizing, it has been more so of a quasi-law enforcement action. Like in some cities, we've been out there and it's been riots and we have to tell them, no, don't turn your back to the police and towards us. You turn your back to the people and towards the police. That was Cincinnati 2001, or just, I would put it to you like this. It's part of my book, right? I talk about the Rodney King riot, right? I have a section where I speak about Khalid Muhammad organizing with the gang members. This is in like 91 and so forth. So Khalid Muhammad meets with Crips and Bloods and all of them. And Khalid Muhammad, he has his own Nation of Islam thing coming. So in his Nation of Islam meeting, they got AK-47s and they got all kind of guns and weapons, and they talking about what they gonna do and planning doing what they do, right? And so this is coming up to the 92 big thing that breaks off. So Khalid Muhammad's with the gang members and they doing some things and they're talking strong too. But then we get to the big the big rebellion, because the mosque is on like 46 and Western, and the rebellion breaks out not too far up here on Normandy. And so the mosque of the Nation of Islam is in the heart of the rebellion zone. And you would think that come the big rebellion, when it's all breaking out, that this would be Khalid Muhammad's time. So look, I'm in DC, right? I'm trying to get my little thing going. I can't get to LA, my hometown. So I started my own rebellion over here in White Georgetown. That's just another thing you read about. I just started my own move in the white community. But I'm calling Muhammad on my way to the street, right? And I'm saying Muhammad, and Muhammad is pissed, because Muhammad said he's pissed because he's on suspension. He can't go nowhere. He can't say nothing in public. He's confined to the mosque. I mean, he didn't want to hear anything I had to say that day. That would be typical of his experiences at certain times, the critical times when the people want to see the Nation of Islam, want to hear from them, need them, where they at. Like in this instance, well, we don't say we don't expect the Nation of Islam to go out here and burn a police precinct or just be right in the police face, cussing them out. Maybe that ain't their style. But what about coming out here and monitoring the police, make sure they don't attack us? What about showing some solidarity? What about medical attention? What about just anything? What about just being, just to me, now I can be condemned all day. Withdrawing at the time of a crisis that you have publicly stood and said that you're for. You said justice or else. Your 10-point program said you against police brutality and mob attacks. You told me that you were the baddest, the boldest, strongest group, and you had the leader. You told me that your leader was Jesus Christ, meaning that he is the baddest man in the history of all humans on the planet. You just told me this 4 months ago, that Minister Louis Farrakhan was the greatest man in the history of all humanity. I expect him to be kicking some police ass. I expect to hear him during coronavirus giving out instructions. I expect him to be rolling some masks out. I expect him to be rolling some water out. I expect him to be that Messiah that you said he was. I don't expect him and y'all to fold in a crisis. All right, I expect you to come through big time and make your word bond. I'm counting on you. And if you don't come through, then I'm going to call it as I see it. Because with the little bit I got, I'm coming through. And we cannot fade from the fight. I love the Moors, but they missed the 1960s.
That's right.
You know, how you going to miss the 60s? You can recover, but you must admit you missed it. You missed it. The Moors have missed critical times. They can make up for it by, you see, you're the only one, you seem to be intelligent enough to know where you have some defects. Right now, right now, the Moors can make up for it. The Moors, it's so many. And I wish it could be honestly boiled down to at least a council of 7 men. Straight up. If I had it my way, if I was my body, show me the top 7 that can bring the rest together. Let's see what the 7 are going to do. What could the Moors do in a time of police rebellion? Well, this is a time that's leading towards independence, sovereignty, and nationality. See, rebellion and dissatisfaction with this system and complaints really are leading us towards a more sophisticated solution. Mm-hmm. So it's still time. You know, you just would like to be out there, man, propagating and agitating, giving a word of encouragement, man, just to hear the word, just to hear the more, just support the people. People just want to see you sometimes. And I think that that's fair.
I definitely agree. And you know, that's what we work towards. We work towards I call myself the people's grand sheep. You know, whether you in the temple or not, I'm for you, and I'm gonna rock for you, and I'm gonna work for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna rock with you, and I'm gonna work for you. But with that being said, let's backpedal a little bit more, and let me ask you about, you know, one of the things with me, people know me for is my son. I have a son that's almost the complete reflection of me. I mean, a little bit more intelligent than me. He's 9, and I mean, he's just amazing, you know. But one thing that I used to admire, and probably it inspired me too, was Dr. Khalid Muhammad and his little bald-head son with him. What in the world happened to little bro? I see him now, and he's went in another direction. I don't want to go too much into it because I know he got his private life going on, but if anybody was a fan and inspired by Dr. Khalid, then they know what I'm talking about. When he brought that little bald-head boy up on, that was his twin. You know what I mean? And I've never hear anybody ever ask about his son. And I was so Khalid Muhammad that I researched and I know where he's at now, and I know what he's doing now, and I get it. But can you speak on that just a tad bit for those who are with Khalid fans like me?
I thank you so much. I say from your perspective, don't count his son out yet, because everything moves in stages and phases. I just got a call from his son a few weeks ago, and I believe him. He said he's going to help me in every way to push the book of Khalid in every way. And he has pull and he has influence that he's built over the years.
Yes.
And he said he's going to help, and that warmed my heart. I would say with him, people would say, well, Farah Gray, we know him as Farrakhan Khalid, that 9-year-old that is securing Khalid Muhammad in his tough times. That they put a lot of expectation on him, as a lot of expectation is on all revolutionaries' children. And then people ask, well, why doesn't the son of this revolutionary or the son of that revolutionary, why is it rare, Brother Taharka, that the child of any one of these major revolutionaries they mentioned, why doesn't the child follow in the exact same path? Normally it's because, in many instances, it's because they have personally witnessed and experienced their parents go through a level of trauma and mistreatment in the movement that would personally make them not want to try the same path. Farah Gray has seen his father undergo enough trial, struggle, mistreatment that he, in his instincts, would want to carve out his own path.
Right.
And so, therefore, he's a unique individual. He's not exactly like his father, but you better know that everything his father put in him is in him. And as he's growing and evolving, he looks at his career and he looks back at it and he says, well, maybe I could have did this or did that. And guess what? He's evolving. And I say, you better look out for that man. That dude has got some influence. He's got some pull. And when he starts talking blacker, everybody gonna be happy. And every day he's getting that way. So I say to him that he's my brother. I've never said nothing against him because he's the son of my spiritual father. He's been through a lot of trauma. And I say in these days and times that he's gonna even make y'all more proud. He's gonna shock you in the future. And he's really done some brilliant things already that just average Black people can really appreciate. And so I say to guy, that dude's a genius, man, and don't count him out.
Absolutely. I've been following him. I got a saying from Brother Sharif of the Moorish Science Temple of America, like, I don't have a horse in the race. In other words, I don't really have a lot of stake into what's happening in that conscious circle there, so I kind of leave that alone. And some people just want their private life. They don't want to be associated with the drama. They want to go ahead and live their private life and be successful and chart, as you said, chart their own path. But I had to ask you that because you being close to Dr. Khalid, and I know you experienced little bro with God. That was a sight to see.
Yeah, well, we volunteered. See, we volunteer to represent Black Panther and Muhammad. We volunteer for the mission. He's born into it.
Yes.
And people got their right to decide as they come up. My daughter, CC Shabazz, I don't think she's going to become the next female chairwoman of the new Black Panther Party and that she's going to be a diehard militant. She grows up, but she's getting more militant every day. She's talking about take me to the riot. I'm going to burn this and that. She's getting militant now. I don't know whether she's going to be an organizer and all that, but coming around, she's getting ready to do Black in her own way. Now, you just remember Farah Gray lost his daddy. See, that hurt him a lot.
Right.
When he lost his daddy, that kind of would turn you up. I lost my daddy, and before that, he was put out of the Nation of Islam. And as a kid, you could just be like, fuck it. Right. You know what I mean? The kid, just pardon my language, a kid might say, man, fuck that. I'm just finna go do me, because I know these niggas just ain't about nothing. Right. For a while, he went through that. Other people in the movement go through that. They just say, man, I'm out of it. I'm finna go get me some money. I'm finna just leave this shit alone. It's only zealots. It's only diehards like me and you that keep coming back trying to maintain this.
Yeah, I've actually was talking to a member of mine from Atlanta today in a group chat, and I said to him, he's like, it's so frustrating to see the Moorish, I think he was saying, the state of the Moorish Science Temple of America idealistically, it's just frustrating to see. It's just frustrating. And I said, well, brother, that's why we here. So the future generations don't have to experience this frustration. Hopefully we can set it on the course where the Prophet Obadiah Ali left it, because our people are something else.
I'm looking for 7 men, and I'm hoping you're the one of them.
Well, let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
be careful about those 7 on the internet, because our people are kooky as ever. If they ain't doing no work on the ground, they ain't got no track record, they don't need to be one of them 7. They don't need, if they ain't putting their boots on the ground in the streets, spending their money, sacrificing to get here, to get there, to have their voice to be heard, to lead our people, they're really not worth the time. A Facebook post anybody can do. But with that being said, big bro, give me a few more minutes of your time. With that being said, I want to ask, oh man, you made me forget my question. With that being said, I wanted to ask this. There was conversation during the time of Dr. Khalid's death that he was assassinated. I'm pretty sure you heard those comments. What have you to say about that?
I would say that there was an assassination attempt on his life in May of 1994. So we can say that he had been under assassination attempt. When you read his FBI files, you can say that he's targeted by the FBI for neutralization because of his radicalism. And so when the person says that Khalid Muhammad was assassinated, or we think he was assassinated, we have to take that seriously. As a matter of fact, we cannot even rule it out. We cannot rule it out. So therefore, I think the final chapter of the book, my final chapter, is called Transition, and it details all that I know about his death and all that happened at the hospital and his formal cause of death and the autopsy reports and the blood test that tests for poisoning called the toxicology reports. It outlines all that. It also mentions other strange occurrences that were occurring in Atlanta. Khalid Muhammad Minister Khalid Muhammad was incarcerated in Atlanta in 1987. And the records show that the FBI was focused on him and intent in that Atlanta area of establishing FBI operations against him. And they ultimately captured him under the buying a home under false pretenses with another social security number. That's another subject we get into. Khalid Muhammad, there's white law, and then there's black law as defined by Khalid Muhammad. It's another subject. Khalid Muhammad did not respect white law. He respected black law and divine law. And if he had to get him a house, he was going to do what the hell he had to do. That's another subject. Right. Brothers and sisters can relate to it. But anyway, Khalid Muhammad, what was the question again?
Oh man, I was following you. This is good conversation. Was the talk about him being assassinated?
Assassinated. Okay, so he was a previous candidate for assassination. He's an FBI target. He passes from what the medical report says is a cerebral hemorrhage or a brain stroke. He did have certain medical conditions, but we are not 100% certain that that's the cause of death, because there's just other suspicious occurrences. Around him in Atlanta at that time, when he's coming up strong as the chairman, he's living in Atlanta, and there's a lot of suspicious people around him in Atlanta at the time of his passing. One suspicious occurring is that me trying to spearhead his investigation. First of all, I had nothing to do with his life support. Khalid Muhammad was on life support when I found him in Atlanta a week before the life support was ended. All decisions about whether to continue his life support was left with his nearest of kin, which was his sister and his son, and they made a determination based on the medical evidence that nothing was responding at all. He wasn't responding at all in a week. I mean, nothing. But I had nothing to do with it. That's number one. So then we get to testing. We get the blood. We get the autopsy results. Then we get the toxicology test from the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. But we said we can't just let the GBI tell us what happened, because the GBI is connected to the FBI. We can take what they say, they may be credible, but still we have the people to be accountable to. So the GBI had the blood and their test came back and their test came back negative. But we got another set of the same blood from the hospital and we gave it, and we had another independent toxicologist we hired. And then we had one of Khalid Muhammad, supposedly his right-hand assistant in Atlanta. Someone he said, I trust 1,000,000%. And so she's supposed to take the blood from us and get it to the toxicologist who we hired and coming in and so forth. And what happens? We never saw her again with that blood. I mean, completely disappeared. That was strange, you know, because we're trying to do the double test on the blood. That was strange. We got the body up to New York to bury Dr. Khalid, and before I can get to the airport and before our men from the national team can get to the airport to get the body off the plane, it's intercepted by some of these Atlanta people. We don't even know how the hell they knew. Some weird, we believe they're agents, Black Panther uniform and all, was at the damn airport and at the body when it came off the plane, along with Eric Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, a longtime Khalid Muhammad supporter. But we had fell out with Eric because Eric went to that casket too with that suspicious man, and they were taking photos of the body. And then when we as the Panther Party got to New York for the funeral, we was pissed.
So Eric Muhammad was at the, what they would call it, the on the tarmac with the body before y'all go, before you get there?
Before any of us got there. We got pictures of Eric Muhammad and this dude and another man with the Atlanta chapter who we believe is an informant. And they're right there. I guess they thought that they were going to find something that ahead of us, or I guess, I don't know about the agent. Let's give Eric the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say Eric was a fanatic and he loved Khalid Muhammad. But anyway, he violated our protocol because he violated our protocol. So without getting too much into that, because that came out in the New Black Panther newspaper, and some of it's going to be repeated here. I think that's where
that book.
I don't think Eric had ill intentions, but he did some risky shit, and he ended up running. He ended up running in the streets from the Black Panthers that day, around that funeral time. And the other man came into the private. We caught him in a private meeting, and I'm not gonna. I'll let you read the book to see what happened to him when we caught his ass in that private meeting. I say all this to say that it's suspicious stuff that's going on. And so I do not rule out assassination. You know, I don't have firm evidence of it, but I don't rule it out based on who he is, what he was doing, what the FBI was pursuing, and just other funny stuff. You know, he has a beautiful wife that he marries, a beautiful wife at the time, but he's just married to her. And it seemed like she chokes when it comes to getting him emergency treatment. You know, like
I've heard that too.
I'll detail it, but when it comes to giving him the emergency treatment timely, that either she chokes in the moment and doesn't call for the timely medical assistance.
Right. So was his wife ever a member of the Nation of Islam, or he didn't marry her while he was in the Nation of Islam, or was she a practicing Muslim?
No connection with the Nation of Islam. She's a very successful Black woman. Well, she's a successful Black woman who was a fashion and shoe retailer. And she was bad. I mean, she's a good, she's a very intelligent, good-looking woman. I mean, she had no connection with the Nation of Islam. She just was Khalid Muhammad. Khalid Muhammad was in love with that woman. And I gotta be honest, she did some good things with Khalid Muhammad and for Khalid Muhammad. So I don't, we'll see how that comes out. I charged her before I charged her in the new Black Panther Party report with being grossly negligent in his situation. Maybe she's just negligence. Maybe it's I don't necessarily ascribe to her a sinister motive. I don't say that his wife was maybe an agent or she was working with the Jews or any of that. As far as I get with her is negligence or gross negligence. Having a duty to do something, knowing what could happen if you don't do it, failing to do it, and injury results. Now and then we'll just read the rest of it. Because I mean, in her defense, then the doctor said, well, Khalid Muhammad, even if he would have had timely medical attention, that he would have had a stroke and he would have lost some of his function. You see, and me and you knowing that Muhammad is a soldier, the man I know, Khalid Muhammad, is not apt to be wanting to be driven around in some wheelchair or not being able to talk, because he gonna be pissed because the Nation of Islam is gonna come saying, well, you got chastised, that's why you can't talk, and that's why you ain't you can't walk or whatever. They would just be going in on Muhammad, you know? I mean, they going in on Muhammad now. They probably say that Muhammad died. One of the Nation of Islam positions is that Muhammad died because he deviated from Allah and following Minister Louis Farrakhan. That is one Nation of Islam position, not my position.
Well, let me say this. When you were with our brother, the minister, Khalid Muhammad, was he fairly healthy, brother? Did he eat right? Did he?
You know, Muhammad's a good looking man, always. Muhammad never took a drink. He never smoked. Yet Muhammad had hypertension that ran in his family. Muhammad did have severe hypertension. I mean, that thing would be up there sometimes. 220 over 1, whatever, at different times. So, you know, we have to establish the records. At one point in time, I think Hashim Nzinga, it's recounted in my book, had took him to the doctor not too long before he passed, and the doctor said he was a walking time bomb. They wanted him to be on high blood pressure pills all the time. Muhammad didn't like high blood pressure pills for certain reasons. Okay, so I can't say that Muhammad was perfectly healthy. I can say that Muhammad had good habits about him. Like before the Million Youth March, he would like fast for like 10 days. He would like be going on long fasts. He wouldn't do nothing but drink. So he would get off, you know, he had good health habits. I think he suffered from stress. He certainly in the last 7 years of his life suffered from like a stress and frustration. He was constantly frustrated about the Nation of Islam situation. So I can't say he was in grade A health. I can't say he was in grade A health. I couldn't say he was in poor health. His diet, you know, we never ate much. We was never just big go to restaurant, big meal people anyway. We was always doing something. Right. But we didn't eat much. But when we ate, it was anything but the hog.
Yeah.
I can't say that. I never saw him eat a lobster. I never saw him eat shellfish. But I mean, he loved him some fried chicken, and he was gonna eat him some meat. And we just ate like anybody else, except eating the hog. And he wasn't gonna eat lobster or shrimp or nothing like that. But man, the brother just ate, man.
Right.
You know, he ate. I look at his life like this as we conclude, that his life ran its course. See, when you read what I'm going to give you, you see that this man had so many experiences. He did so much. He taught so many that at 53, he fulfilled lives up to 203. See what I'm saying? So I don't take him as being chastised. I say he came here and did what he was divinely appointed to do, and he, for divine reasons, was out of here. Yeah. But that man, if any man can do what he did in 53. And you see how his legacy is living on to these days, man.
Man.
He's great, and I'm
Let me
glad
tell you something, brother. I can quote some of them speeches from beginning to end. At one time, I was real good with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was real good with it. And I'm telling you, he inspired me. He inspires me today to push. See, because Moors are, I don't want to say, Moors are hesitant to tell it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Moors like to be intellectually, politically correct. And that's the brothers in the temple or the sisters in the temple. But then you got the ones on the internet, in which I discussed with you about that. Nah, if they talking about this sovereignty and all that stuff, their concepts of sovereignty is out there and has nothing to do with the Moorish Science Temple of America. Their concepts is predicated upon the European sovereign citizen doctrine, not liberation and independence. For if I file a piece of paper to the European that oppressed me, I done just gave him some power. Let me go, please. So that's another thing in the internet thing. But I just want to say, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, he inspired me to be bold with my message. Amen. And because I understand certain principles of delivering a message, I use just enough Dr. Khalid to go up to that line, but not jump over it. You understand what I'm saying? I go right up to the line. Matter of fact, you can hear me today. If you go to my channel, if you go to on Facebook, my last 5 minutes, I goes in hard and I walks right up to the line, and I'm talking about how Moors are trying to French kiss Moroccans. Because the Moroccans there today are not the ancient Moroccans of yesterday. Those are French people that's calling themselves Muhammad, and by default, you want to call yourself a Moroccan of today with the nation state of Morocco, and by default, you want to French kiss these Europeans. And so I walk straight up to the line, and that comes from me listening to Dr. Khalid Muhammad. But in closing, brother, we got to do this again once the book come out. And I would like to go live with you before I drop this whole demonstration.
The first hand-signed hardback copies.
Yeah, and then I would like to do a review with you on the book. I would love to do a review with you on the book.
Sure.
I'm an avid reader, and I know the story of Dr. Khalid Muhammad from the outside looking in, so I'm really looking forward to that. But in closing, what do you think you're going to achieve from this book, or what do you wish to achieve from this book? Because you know you're going to stir a lot of people up. You stirred me up when you mentioned the Moors. But we friends. You're my brother. And I respect you as my brother first.
Yes.
But now we can get into difference of opinion later. But what do you expect to achieve from this? Is some serious information going to rub some people the wrong way, brother.
It is. But it's more than just that. And the reason why I take time is because I know that you're an avid reader, and I know I got plenty of scientists that are going to search every paragraph, and they're going to look at every footnote. And so instead of having to try to correct something later, I'm putting all my effort into right now being as thorough as possible from the research perspective. What will we achieve? Number one is people who love Khalid Muhammad, like yourself and others. You will have a true biography and work of him that is befitting of him, and that it will make the supporters of Khalid Muhammad very happy. That's number one. Those that respect and honor him, and I believe that there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that respect him. Number two, will introduce this new generation to Khalid Muhammad, and it will expand his reach into many, many millions of these new brothers and sisters who are coming into consciousness and knowledge of self, and they get the full story on one of our greatest figures and everything that it pertains to. Because when you're getting Khalid Muhammad's story, you're getting a healthy dose of Louis Farrakhan's career. You're getting a healthy knowledge of the Nation of Islam. You're getting a healthy knowledge of the Black Panther Party, Black nationalism, Black culture. You're getting so much in there. You're getting a healthy knowledge of Islam. And so it's good for people that want to know themselves and know their history, even if they're not Khalid Muhammad's followers. You know, I have a picture of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in there. You know, even if I don't spend long on it, I want people who read his book to know how great that man was and that Khalid Muhammad had respect for him. And I want this generation to know that Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moors are the first founders of organized Islam in America.
Yes, sir.
I want them to hear that from some other white scholar or somebody else. I want them to hear it from Malik Zulu Shabazz and let this generation know for it. The Nation of Islam, it's controversial, but every member of the Nation of Islam will want this book, because I document in detail the history of the Nation of Islam in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s like no one has. And yes, there are some times of incongruence, but what about all the times of congruence? What about all the great times? I want to be clear with you that even though some of this discussion pertains to conflict between Louis Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan himself is a legend. And reading his history, this man is a legend and has done many things for us and for our people that we must appreciate. That he was the beacon light of consciousness and the beacon light of waking us up for many years when we didn't have strong leadership. And so I pay deference to that. I would hope to one day, when this book is written and the dust settles, that to sit down with Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I believe that when he reads it, he will know that this book is the truth, or it is the truth as far as it is Khalid Muhammad's view on life. You see what I'm saying? And that he's going to respect it. So I expect to step into the world of authorship, my brother. I expect to step out here with the world of the Cornel West and in the past, the Breast of Soul, Toni Morrison's and the others. I honestly think that I have one of the greatest books of our era, literally, greatest history books of our era. I mean, this thing is 120,000 words, it's hundreds of pages, I'm exhausting everything over here, man. I mean, there's nothing, man, I take everything seriously, brother, down to just, there's nothing, not one shred of evidence that I will go through before I get out of here, because I don't want to know or be missing anything. I mean, so something in here for everybody. I'm following Dr. Malachi Z. York. See, I'm a follower of Malachi Z. York. Well, there's a part in there about Khalid Muhammad and Malachi York, you know? So it's something that's good for our people. It's going to raise the consciousness of our people. It's going to make our people more militant. It's going to make them stronger. And, you know, I guess that's what I'm achieving, man. I'm doing something so that I know that, man, I took care of my man. That's what the greatest thing is. I want them to know that, man, look, I looked out for you and I took care of you. I took care of your legacy, you know? I didn't just leave it to somebody else to write it or the white man to write it or something sloppy. Brother, I took care of you, you know? We got to take care of our leaders like that, you know? I took care of him, man. I love that man and I miss him.
I would be remiss. A friend of mine, I told him that I was doing an interview with you. So two things. First, I like to, as we say, camelback off that statement. This is in no way, and this interview is no way to be in conflict with NOI, Nation of Islam. This is just an interview so we can get insight on the life and times of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, his experiences, and the experience of our brother, Dr. Malik Zulu Shabazz. And so anybody who view this know for sure that this is just an interview. This is not to stir up conflict, although this can be controversial if people want to take it that way, or it could be just a history lesson.
It's a history lesson. See, the Nation of Islam, Khalid Muhammad is like a period in their history that they can learn something from. You know, that they may have different take than me on it. They may have a take, well, this is what happens to a man if he don't follow the guidance of his leader. Or this happens to a man that is They might look at it like that, or they can look at it from a neutral perspective of, this is the challenges that a group, that a Nation of Islam can face with its teaching and its doctrine. That you will produce hardliners and militants that will take that teaching seriously. And then you will be challenged on it, and then how you as an organization handle it. And there's lessons in it. See, the Nation of Islam should be able to look at Khalid Muhammad saying that if this situation arises in the future, we'll handle it differently. They should be able to look at that and make some adjustments, you know? And I'm sure that if Khalid Muhammad was here and he looked back, I'm sure it would be things he would do different if he had to come back, you know? Malcolm would do some things differently. If he had to come back, he would do some things. Elijah may make a few moves differently, you know?
Indeed.
History is most attractive.
Exactly.
To reward our research.
And let me ask you this question. A friend of mine, I told him I was interviewing you, and he got one question he asked. He said, ask Brother Shabazz, with his expertise in law, he has a JD. Doesn't he do a course to certify paralegals and law school for lawyers? Basically said, why with his expertise in law, he has a JD, doesn't he do? Oh, he's saying, why don't you do a course with to certify paralegals and maybe have a law school for lawyers? I guess that's the question.
Thank you so much. And that is an appropriate question. At ShabazzUniversity.com, which is an online university we open, ShabazzUniversity.com. I teach a free public class in relation to it every Thursday night. It's on my Facebook page. I taught it tonight. I teach legal rights and legal training. But in the fall, I'm going to teach a state certified paralegal course at ShabazzUniversity.com that brothers and sisters can sign up for. And it will teach you the state certified certification for paralegals and everything that it pertains to it, and pleadings and draftings and everything. And so that is a good idea. It is coming up from me, and it should be on the course schedule for ShabazzUniversity.com in the fall. You know, I am recognizing, I mean, the legal field is really calling me heavy right now. So I'm liable to try to just help the New Black Panthers and the others to keep the streets warm, because I got a lot of legal work to do, and that's one objective. I need more paralegals. I need more help in Black Lawyers for Justice. I need the Moors, because the Moors they're people they're students, and many of them are trying to use constitutional law to their advantage. I want to meet the Moorish lawyers too.
But they need to know themselves around the courtroom. I got some brothers that you can meet. I got a serious brother right here, paralegal brother. I mean, serious. He has gotten at least 4 to 5 people off of sentences that would never imagine would come home. Right here in Baltimore, a good friend of mine. He's real quiet. He doesn't do the internet. He's you would love to pick his brain.
You talk about. I tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. I know you're doing some good things in housing, and I like your spirit in general. If you just give me a month or so, even before the book comes out, I'm gonna come personally see you.
Brother, you got to come here, brother. You have to come, and we can sit down and talk. And we need to talk about. I love talking about what we're going to do and execute. I can't stand. I'm about to do.
Well, I think the Moors could do right now, in the era of police abuse, and the Moors do study the Constitution, and I think that I'm gonna sit with it. You and I could produce a hell of a document,
Absolutely.
like a legal rights, like something I'm doing with the Panthers is giving them a specific kind of legal rights document that fits them. Black Lawyers for Justice and the Moors who you're with, or just you and we could put some impressive material together that I think you would feel comfortable putting that Moorish seal on it, along with Black Lawyers for Justice, and it would be good information that would help our people.
I'm interested in it and talking about it further. Now, brother, the last question, and this is it. When are you going to organize as you did before, and you brought me and my brother Ishmael to the center stage so we can address our people. I thought that was very powerful. I thought that was very influential. And our people do not get enough of those raw conversations and talks and motivation and inspirational appearances by people like yourself, myself, and all the likes that you brought to the stage. Cornel West, I mean, some brothers came from South Africa. It was amazing, brother. We need that soon, brother. Anything in mind for the future?
I would say that I do believe that that once the book comes out, that what I can do will be, I'll be fully loaded to do what I can do politically. And I would say that the times are sweeping much more towards revolution, and I'm looking at early 2021, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about a serious national gathering that I wouldn't say the fall, but I don't want to rush it. I say we need to work. We need to fight through these battles because they're going to escalate. We need to recruit. We need to improve our relationships. We need to get better at what we're doing, like groups, in terms of what we're really doing outside of articulating. And I would say that's something we build. We need to build it, and we need to build it so that come 2021, when we get there, it'll be raw conversation, but it'll be more towards moving towards our actual objectives. You know what I mean? I'm for it. I'm for it. But I want to work through the process. I want to work with the Moors. I want to work with Ishmael and you all. I want to work, and then I think that we can have a beautiful national and international unity gathering. And I think that it'll be even much bigger than before.
And I'm looking forward to it, brother, and I appreciate you. And I'm looking for the next conversation. I'm going to be in touch so we can go live and we can talk to the people direct.
Well, I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say about it, because these subjects I haven't even discussed in the book. I promise I haven't even discussed it. I wasn't supposed to say anything.
Well, they just to win? I'm sure they.
I wasn't supposed to talk till like 7/7 or 7/17. But I mean, it's out here, and I mean, I have to be able to talk about the subject in my book. They're going to be controversial. I mean, just the glimpses of them I put online, but I mean, it's much more of it. It's going to be a lot of it, and it's time that I talk about it and let it out. So,
well, these
but it's not for any bad purposes. It's just for it's so Khalid Muhammad will have his story. He deserves to have his story told.
Well, this conversation has led me to anticipate the book, so I'm pretty sure it would lead others to anticipate it too. This has led me to anticipate it. At first, I was like, well, okay, I know a lot about Dr. Khalid Muhammad, but now I see I don't know as much as I thought I knew. And so I think this is going to touch the hearts and minds of the people as it has done me. Like, oh man, yeah, I do have to check this out. So. Salute, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. I love you, brother, and I appreciate your mind and your mentality, all right?
Peace and love, my brother. Talk with you soon. We're going to schedule a live.
Islam.
If you like this interview, please subscribe, share, and like. You say you want the truth, and I'm going to get the truth for you. Check 1 2 1 2. Here we go. You are now listening to the greatest, Taharkabey. This is Moorish World TV. Oh, you say you want the truth? Well, I'm gonna give you the truth. I'm gonna give you the truth today. Let's go.